Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today we are going to put the locomotive back together. Now this is where everybody is going to probably have a ton of questions, and I'm probably going to do this section in multiple videos. As you can see, we've got our frame and locomotive painted and decaled. The only thing left to do is really just put the cab back together. All the pieces are loose. You can see we've still got our cab here. I need to wipe it down because it's got fingerprints all over it. So we've got our cab. We're going to need to put the windows back in, as well as the sliding windows, the regular windows, the doors, and the interior, which is this. So we've got to do that. I have already mounted the motor blocks back up under the frame. I have already put the weights back in. If you're doing an air wire install and you get to this point, well, basically, you know, with the air wire, which is battery, completely battery, you can just plug the air wire into these, and you are set to go. Now we are going to be doing a revolution install, so we're going to need one of these. This is an older style. I like these better because they have the fuse on board. The newer style have a built-in fuse, and once it pops, you're dead. So you can replace these. These are the older style adapter plugs that came with the first generation of Revolution. And you can always tell the first gen because of the plug and the remote. The first gen remote has the solid plastic buttons. You can actually hear it click. Whereas the second generation remote has these nice soft buttons. I actually prefer the first generation remote over this one because these soft buttons will get stuck up under, as you can see here. Or in my case, a lot of times like the number 3 will get caught up under, and then you're trying to figure out why your train horn is blowing for a half hour. So we're going to be putting a revolution in, which is going to control the motion, the lights, direction, as well as the sound. This is a P8 Phoenix. I just had this laying around. It's really not meant for this type of install. This board is meant to have an adapter board, but it will work. I got it added inside a boxcar at auction. Now this is a P8, or is it a P5? I can't remember. One of them is for DCC only, and the other one is for both. This one is actually for DCC. That's why it's so small. And there's an adapter board you can buy for it that will allow it to work better. It will still work with the Revolution. It's still going to make sound. I can blow the horns, but it's not going to throttle up and throttle down because it can only get those signals from a DCC signal, which is fine. I just want it to make a little bit of noise. So you know, and basically for now it'll just be idling, and when I come across the adapter board I can just add it in and it'll be fine. So we've got our plug, and this is one I sort of want to show you what you can do here, because a lot of people are talking about all the adapter boards. This is one that I had already made up ahead of time. You can make your own. You just you know, you can buy the plugs all over the place, and again, sorry about that, I buy mine from all electronics, and I've already got several here. And so you can, you know, put the plugs on and wire them correctly before you even open up an engine. So that's what I do. A lot of this stuff I do ahead of time. Now I kept this one a little bit simple just for the video purposes. This would be for one end of the loco. So we're actually going to have to go back and do this twice. And then we're going to have to make sure our wires match up. Because, and it's really kind of hard to see here, but both motor blocks are facing this way, and that's all because of one thing: money and wires. And it's easier, cheaper to face them this way, have the wires come out here in the middle, and then bring them together. Otherwise, you know, one motor block would have to be turned, and then we'd have wires going way down to the other end. So now, why am I showing you all of that? Because that is going to mean that, as you can see, the left rail for this motor block will actually be the right rail over here. Yeah. And it can be confusing because naturally what we want to do when we wire things up is we want to wire red to red, black to black, which, yeah, but with our motor blocks being backwards of each other and facing each other, that causes a problem. It's going to make us have to wire red to red or black to red, red to black. So this is the first step, and all I'm doing is just plugging in some of these cords. One of the things I like to do, and if you've watched my videos before, you'll notice this, I pick two. It really doesn't matter. These are the motor because they've got 4 wires. So, and the 4. Goodness gracious. These are the motor wires are up top because they have 2 wires. The power pickups have 4. They are down below. So that's how I keep things together. So what we're going to do is, what I'm going to do is, we'll cut these down. But, again, and this is what you're going to go on the motors and the power pickup. You're going to have to go red to black. Now this is for, and I'm trying to show you so you can see, this is the motor, and I've got red to black, black to red, and that will cause the motors to go one direction. If you have wired your motors red to red and black to black, your motors are going to spin opposite direction. Your engine isn't going to go anywhere. Now, I've been debating on whether to mention this, and I am going to mention it just because there are a lot of really smart people out there. If you don't want to do this, if you don't want to wire the red to red, red to black, black to red, you can go up under the locomotive here, and the 2 outside pins, which are the black and the red ones, those are your motor wires. The power pickups are the inside. And you also have power pickups coming from the block. So that's why you have 4 wires instead of 2. Because you've got red and black here, and you've got a red and black power pickup from in here. Because USA Trains picks up power from the hubs, which is typically why you hear USA Trains engines squeaking all the time a lot. Because they need lubricant right here in this little opening. And it's not even a bearing, it's just a opening. So, and I've already greased those before I stuck them in when I was putting them all back together. I'm not a big fan of that because if you do it and you forget you did it on one engine and you come back to work on it, it can throw you off. So I just leave everything stock. I don't move the wires around. I don't do any of that. Just in case, and if I do sell the engine down the road, and somebody tries to, take the, and I take the revolution out, but if somebody puts something else in and the wiring's different, well, it's going to mess them up. As for the power pickups, you have to wire these black to red, red to black. If you do black to red, red to red, black to black, red to red, you will cause a short and you'll be burning up some wires, melting some wires, because you will, and there's really no easy way to change this up under unless you just take the motor blocks apart and switch the wires as well as resolder the pickups on the power truck. So I'm not going to go there. So basically what we're going to do right now is I'm going to wire my 2 motors together, and then I'm going to put a plug on it like so. And so I'm going to wire these 2, and I'll be cutting a lot of wire off, and I'm going to put a plug on here and wiring a plug so that I can plug it right into this adapter that I've made. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll wire these 2, come up, so for the motor. There are a couple of different ways you can go as far as everything else, lighting and sound and whatnot, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but this is the very basic thing. If you were just going to repaint your engine and basically put it back the way it was, all you have to do is just put all the electronics back in, plug the plugs back in, and that's why I love buying these, because if I sell the engine, say a month, 2 years, 10 years from now, I can easily unplug my stuff from here and put all the original stuff back in. So it makes your life way much easier. And then also, if you're trying to troubleshoot, you can do stuff as well. Now, another great thing is if you're doing battery power, you don't even have to worry about these because these are the power pickups. So I do suggest, if you are a battery person, don't cut these. Just leave them or tuck them. You're not going to get a short or anything. But if you're doing battery power, you don't need these. But don't get rid of them, especially for that down the road scenario. So I usually, if I'm doing a battery power install, I usually will just fold these over and tuck them away and keep them out of the way, and then put everything else that the person wants for the battery install. But we're doing track power revo, so we're going to need some plugs here. So, all right, so that's getting us started for right now, and we are going to be putting LED headlights in, which I've already made those up. I make usually, yeah, when it's cold outside or something, or yeah, I will sit and just make a dozen of these and just put them in a drawer. These are 2 LED 5mm headlights, LED lights, warm white LED bulbs. This is a 1K resistor, and I buy all this stuff off of Amazon, eBay, you name it. And yeah, and I buy the wire from All Electronics. I buy a big bundle of wire, and I've wired on my headlights. So these are ready to go up in this part. And the great thing is, these holes, which you can see right here, are already the perfect size for LEDs. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. And by the way, I will put heat shrinkable tubing around this, but I just want you to see. So some of this stuff we have to start doing now ahead of time, so that we can get other things in order. So, but yeah, these just slide. Actually, you know what? Here, I'll just put them from the top. And as you can see, they just slide perfect. It's like that hole is a 5mm hole, and this is a 5mm LED. So they just fit perfect in there. But we're going to be shoving them from inside. I've already put the number boards in, so I'll have to pop the number boards out to get the headlights in place. But as you can see, we got a really nice finish on our locomotive, and the decals went on really smoothly, and we'll have that video up as well. As you can tell, as I said, I paint the vents a little different color. I paint them flat black instead of the gloss, so the vents really stand out. And because they're, you know, they're nice and squared off, I can come back with some weathering powders if I want and weather them up, and it just makes the engine look good, but it also just makes it look used, like it hasn't come right out of shop. So I did not paint the exhaust fans. These were already black, so I didn't need to worry about those. Or did I paint these black? I can't remember. So but yeah, so that, you know, that shell's ready to go. And also I won't be putting the smoke unit back in, so too bad. And we will not be putting the class lights in. For this install, what I'm going to do is, I haven't glued everything back in yet. So, and this is very typical. I typically don't glue everything in until to the very, very end, because I want to make sure that everything's fitting right and whatnot. So this is the point where you got to have a couple things. You got to have your cords, your connectors. I buy like 2 dozen of these at a time. You're going to have your adapter board, and the newer style, I don't have one handy. I'm completely out of those, but the newer style are much smaller, and they've got screw terminals, which are nice. I love the screw terminals, but I love how this version has the fuse. So I prefer the fuse over the screw terminals any day. And if you search on eBay, sometimes you'll find these, or on the Swap and Shop group. Whenever I start to get low, I'll send out an all-call, and lots of people have these laying around because you don't use them for every install, only for engines that don't have the plug. So all right, so we're about to get ready to start with some electronics, and that's going to be the next video. Is the actual, we'll put it all in. So this is sort of the preview, what's, you know, what's all, you know, here and going. I've got my headlights, my LED headlights ready. I've got the board ready. The only thing I'm gonna have to do, I will have to I'll have to strip some wires. For these are the headlight. The blue one is going to be your positive, and then the yellow and the white is going to be your negative. So, and the reason they give you two is because obviously front and back. So, and we'll be hooking up the LED headlights to these. Now, if you want to test your engine, or if you just want to wire it up so you can put a Revo in it for later, you know, do it now. These are the dummy plugs that come standard in Aristo locomotives, and basically, I don't want to call it a shorting pin, but it's a jumper pin. And now, if I leave this in here, the engine will be a track power engine once I have all of the wiring completed. And then I can pop this out, plug in my Revolution, and I've got remote control. So, I'm not going to be putting in the original electronics. In the very, very beginning, I was thinking I was going to, and just, yeah. So, we're just going to be putting the LED headlights in the front. We're not going to be putting the class lights or the number board lights in right now. I probably do most of my running, 99% of it during the day. And if I do run at night, I run passenger trains so that the trains can light up, the cars will light up. And so I don't run a lot of freight at night, so I don't bug with it. Something else, I don't do class lights. I don't install them a lot of times because, especially the Southern Railway, by the time the 60s, 70s, 80s, and I'm not exactly sure of the date, you know, but because of the Southern being high tech, you know, the railroad was computer controlled, and even back in the 70s, they were using computers to control trains. And so they got away from the class lights pretty quick. And if you notice, a lot of engines, they will either be turned off or the class lights will be welded over. At least on the Southern. I can't speak for other railroads, but the Southern was a very innovative railroad, and so anything that they could do technology-wise, they did. So we've got these are the battery boxes. Those are ready to go. And yeah, so once we're done, you know, we're going to have a remote control GP9 with remote control. And Phoenix sound. Now, like I said, this is a P5, P8, I don't know. My wires are getting, I don't like that. So, but yeah, and so as you can see, I follow the wiring diagram on the Phoenix, and these two wires are going to the motors. So when I apply power to the motors, that's when the sound system will come on. And then these two, this is the ribbon cable that will plug into the Revolution. There's typically, I call it the rainbow, because there's blue and green and yellow, orange, red. I've just got it cut down to two because that's all I'm using. I'm using the number 2 wire, which is green, number 3. Number 3 is the horn, number 2 is the bell. And so I cut the rest off because I don't want all that extra wire. And then I will, once I get everything, we'll zip tie everything nice and neat. This is the volume control. You can turn the volume up and down. And there's other wires here you're going to notice. The green wires are for track power, power straight off the track. And then these two, if it's running on DC, it can tell. And then this is our speaker plug. So this will go down into the hole and hook into our speaker. So, or I might actually on this one, I might put a couple of small speakers up top just to be different and see how it sounds and experiment with that. So we'll have to see how it goes. So we've got everything ready just about. This is the type of speaker, and this is that 1-inch speaker I got from All Electronics. And I've been debating on whether to put, you know, like a one up here. I put one in the F unit earlier, and they do sound really good. But yeah, like one here, and then maybe one, I don't know. So, but we'll see. Because I've got a dozen of these things, and they really do sound good. So I think you'll be impressed, even on video with the sound. So, but yeah, so we're gonna start wiring up, and the next video is probably gonna be me wiring, and I won't be doing a lot of talking just because I'll be focused in on wiring. Or who knows, maybe I'll talk a whole lot and the engine will blow up just because I won't be paying attention. So, but yeah, so here we are, and we're gonna be wiring this up and getting it ready. So, all right, hope you stick around for the next video. I know this one was kind of rambling and pointless, but wanted to show you where we are with this and where we're going. And again, if you have any questions, or if you are wondering where I got certain parts, if you look down in the description, I'm posting all the links to anything there. So if you're curious about all electronics or the speaker or whatever, it's all there. Yeah, alrighty. So we're about to get ready and put this together.